My guests this evening, one is the co-creator, co-writer, and co-star, and the other is the producer of the hit web series Life is Easy from New Zealand. The show is a fun, quirky, and topical series of two best friends that magically swap bodies. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts virtual studio, Cole Jenkins and Reihana-Wilson.
Hello.
Hi.
Kia ora.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, we're doing well, thank you.
And it's like late morning over there, I believe, yes?
Yeah, about 11 a.m. on Friday.
Oh, that's right. The high pandemic brain, and the time zones and everything else. So it's like, oh, okay. As we were talking pre-show, here in the United States, we're smack dab in the pandemic, but over in New Zealand, things are much better. Can you kind of speak to the current state of New Zealand right now?
Yeah, I mean, we did our full lockdown back in March, where we were basically confined to your home, all businesses closed except essential services, and we did that for about 5 weeks, and then we slowly were able to integrate back, and now pretty much everything is back to normal. All businesses and schools can run as usual. Bars, restaurants are open. Productions, film and television productions are all back in full swing, and theatre is kicking off again, so people can start going to the theatre and seeing live shows. Yeah, it's all kind of business as usual now.
Yeah, it all feels very surreal because it's like nothing much has changed here, but then we get to sit and watch the news about you guys over there, and it's wildly different. So we're very lucky here.
Yes, and just hearing what you had to say gives me hope that at some point we'll be doing the same thing, and I'll be able to go to my local theaters and concerts and anything else that's going on, just like what I love and is so dear to me, and it's been ripped away for months now, and I can't wait for that moment to come back. I know millions of other people here in the United States are thinking the exact same thing. Like, when can we go do this again? Well, you got to do some other work first, and then we can get to that.
Yeah, in New Zealand we say do the mahi, get the treats, which basically means you put in the work and you'll benefit from it in the future.
I like that. I might have to use that for a later interview and just say it's a Mark original. Okay, so let's talk about Life is Easy. Like I mentioned, I'm a super fan of the show. I loved watching it. I've rewatched episodes. I kind of picked things apart in terms of just like what I loved watching about certain things and how the characters interacted. So let's kind of start from the beginning for folks out there that are not familiar with it. Where did this idea come from? I understand that for Cole and Chiling that it was kind of like a vehicle for yourselves to kind of work through and write and star in, but I'll let you kind of explain the early seedings of Life is Easy.
Yeah, well, I guess Chiling, who's the other co-writer and co-star on the show, she's my best friend, and we've been friends for over 10 years now. We first actually went, like the characters in the show, we went to intermediate school together when we were like 11, 12, but we weren't friends then, but we were aware of each other. And then it wasn't until we went to university and we went to drama school together that we became very, very close, and we ended up living together and creating together all the time. And so, yeah, our friendship kind of just really bloomed hugely in those years that we were together at Unitech. And yeah, like you said, we've been wanting to create something together as a vessel for us to work together, but also create some work for us, some film work for us, because everyone knows that in any industry it's hard to crack into the film and television industry, and so why not make it yourself if you can? So we endeavored to do that. We wanted to write a story that was meaningful to us, that really reflected who we were and would challenge us as writers and actors, and also give people something interesting and thought-provoking to watch. And I'm pretty sure the body swap idea came from just a night out. Chiling, we'd probably had a couple of drinks. She says, "I've had this idea. What if we did this?" And like two best friends, like you and me, we swap bodies, and then and we're like, "Oh, great!" And that kind of just sat with us for quite a while. And then when we got the opportunity to pitch some ideas to TVNZ, which is our national programmer, we pitched that as one of the ideas, and they really loved it and wanted us to develop it further. So that's kind of where it all started. I think a lot of great ideas start from just having a couple of drinks and just chatting and laughing. If it makes you laugh, we thought, like, if we like it and it makes us laugh, then we're onto something good.
Okay, was there? I'm just strictly out of curiosity. Was there like a second runner-up idea that you guys were kind of hoping maybe the powers that be would say yes to if they didn't say yes to the body swap idea?
Yes, we actually had another idea that we pitched that was more of it's basically another story of friendship, but involved a group of friends who, similar themes to Life is Easy. They were a group of friends. They were all kind of outcasts or part of certain minority groups, different ethnic and backgrounds and different sexualities and genders. And at high school, they were kind of like this dream team of like anti-heroes, basically, and they loved it. But then as they've gotten older, they've conformed to more of the norms that society pushes on you. And then at like a 15-year reunion type thing, they all get together, realize how much they've changed, and decide to try and get back to their roots of what they used to be. That was the other story in a nutshell. But they went with Life is Easy, so that's what we've got.
That's interesting. And Ruby, in your case, when did you get involved with the timeline here with the project?
Well, it is a funny story. See, I also went to Unitech. That's where I met Cole and Chaylin. We're all at performing art school together. I was in the technical department, but I could see that those two, those classic acting jerks who are just basically like the same person, much like the story we've made. But those two, correct me if I'm wrong, you got some development funding to write the first few scripts, which is all great. But what I didn't realize is they'd put my name on this proposal as the producer. And then the funding changed, and TVNZ were like, okay, guys, we've scrapped development funding. Can you just put a budget in for full production funding? Just for about $300,000. And then I got this very stressed phone call from Cole saying, hey, so we put your name on this proposal. Can you do it? Can you please put out a budget for hundreds of thousands of dollars in 2 days? Thanks. Bye. Yeah. So it was quite a hilarious shock to the system as a start for this, but I love it. I love Chaylin and Cole. Again, we've known each other for years and years and years. I love making stuff that obviously speaks to me as a human being, as a person, as a queer person, a non-binary human. So all this gender stuff is number one topic for myself in my life and in my work. So yeah.
And that's why we put Ruby down, because we knew that they were so capable of doing something like this. We were aware that they hadn't really done anything quite to this scale, but hey, neither had we. So, we trusted Ruby, and we knew that they would do a bloody amazing job, and they have. So, hey, thanks, Ruby. Thanks for saying yes, even though we didn't really give you much of an option.
Zero option. I couldn't leave you hanging. But no, I'm so grateful because, you're right. This was the biggest project for all of us. We've all done loads of short films and documentaries and music videos and obviously loads of theatre shows, but this was our first team foray into television making, and I haven't looked back since.
Awesome. And that that really speaks a lot to the fact that this web series is the first foray into that realm, because for someone like myself who doesn't know your backgrounds, when I watched it, I never would have guessed that. I thought, like veterans had put this together and put this thing out there. It really came across that way. It's so, it pops off the screen. It's got a really good editing to it. So the flow of it's really nice, and it doesn't drag at all, even when there's like quieter times or like, the zanier times, a lot of the sexual things, it all just fits and flows really well. So that's really kudos to all of you and your team that you did this right out of the gate, and it's that good. It makes me wonder, like, what are you going to be doing in 5 years then, or something from now? My goodness.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. Like, our whole team and crew had a huge range of different experience levels, which was really helpful to us because we wanted the whole project and the whole production to be a place of learning for people who are newer to the biz and everything, and also a place where people of higher skill level and more experience could teach young and up and coming people. So in the next 5, 10, 20 years, these up and coming filmmakers will really take over, hopefully. But yeah, that was all part of what we envisioned and what we wanted for this whole production, was a safe, learning, fun space for everyone.
Absolutely, and especially creating a space for people who wouldn't normally get the chance. You know, we try to make sure all the minorities were getting a good step up, especially in roles that they assisted on and had never taken an HOD role. So just the fact that we were giving a lot of responsibility to a lot of our friends, and lots of these people had come from theatre as well, so knew how to make art and knew how to make really engaging, fun, entertaining content, but in a different format, which I think really was a real strength by the end of it. And now I've taken a lot of them to my next project, which I'm just doing right now. So
that's wonderful. That's wonderful to hear. And if I remember right, I think I read something where, for lack of a better term, there's like a charge or a document with this production about who you're going to be hiring and who you're going to be on, from the cast, in front of the camera, behind the camera. And you've kind of already spoken to the fact that if it's minorities, BIPOC, all kinds of different things that people that don't normally maybe get as many opportunities, or maybe sometimes no opportunities, to have, here's your home, here's a chance to show what you got, and you can shine. So I thought that was really great. Was one of the
first things we did. We wrote a kaupapa document, and Māori, Te Reo Māori kaupapa is sort of like process, purpose, I guess manifesto, our team manifesto for Us People Productions. And yeah, we always set out for the crew to be, I think our percentage was 70% Indigenous people. Is that the percentage that we set, Cole?
We said 70% Indigenous people, or people of colour, or queer people of colour, or women. Yeah. We went well above that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't want to be that guy that's always touting, like, talking about straight white dudes, but we only had maybe 2 straight white dudes. Everyone else was beautiful brown people and so many queer friends and gender diverse people. I'm non-binary myself. It was so nice to feel we would create a space where I knew I could be relaxed to be myself, and therefore it just gave us so much more freedom and power to really stick to our guns and make this thing. Yeah, so many women as well, just awesome. Everyone's great. Everyone's very good at their jobs. We just need to be given the time to do it.
Yeah, well, and it's also, that also speaks to what Cole was saying about having different levels of skill set on the set, because that means those folks that don't get opportunities, and maybe they're also new to the industry, they're getting to see how it could be, and hopefully they take it with their company or something that they do, and they have the same mindset. I had such a great experience on Life is Easy. I want to take this and do this with my project now and watch it grow. So that's just another way of expanding and teaching and furthering what you started. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's what we hope for the future as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to ask, and I didn't know if I was reading too much into this, but the characters are called Jamie Lee and Curtis. Is that after the actress and maybe the Freaky Friday connection, or?
Absolutely. When Charlie and I, we were when we were coming up with names for these characters, we were originally going to call them the same name. Then we were going to call them like Nick and Nick, like Nicholas and Nicky or something, or Nick and Nicky, or Nick and so. So we thought that, and then we started writing the script, and we're like, shit, this is so confusing. It was confusing enough with the body swap, but then when you're saying, okay, so this is Nick with a C, who's now in Nick with a K's body, and then we're like, no. And then I think I came up with Jamie Lee Curtis because obviously Freaky Friday, but I am obsessed with horror movies and obviously the Halloween franchise. So I just kind of basically said to Charlie, this is what we're calling them, and you're not changing my mind on it. And then we just changed the spelling of Jamie Lee, and it worked.
That was my favorite thing on set. Just sort of noting the moments where people would put two and two together and just be like, Jamie Lee Curtis. It's so entertaining.
Yeah, I just remember sitting on my couch when the names were said. And I'm like, I immediately flashed to Halloween. I immediately flashed to that. And I'm like, that can't be a coincidence. There must be some intention behind that. So I'm glad to hear that there was, because I'm a huge horror fan myself. So like, oh, look at this little thing I think I picked up on. I'll have to put it in my review and see if it's right or not.
Yeah, it's a little Easter egg.
For sure. So when you were telling me pre-show that initially you thought you're going to be able to maybe film everything in 3 weeks and kind of maybe have some post-production or what have you and kind of be done, and it turned into a much longer process. Can you speak to that? Because I think I saw something where Charlie Ling was saying that when you got the budget, then you're thinking, let's have some locations, and it turned into like many locations, and everything just kind of expanded. So can you kind of speak to the whole timeline of shooting the show?
Yeah, I think there was a bit of a pitfall that Chai-Ling and I fell into as like first-time TV series writers with a bit of money. We suddenly were like, oh, okay, well, we've got all this money. Let's just do whatever we want. We want this to look expensive. We want it to feel amazing. We want all these characters and all these locations. So we basically wrote whatever we wanted. And then it got to down, and then it was heavily edited by command from our directors, who basically said, you cannot do this. So we had edited it down a lot, but then even then it was still there was a lot of locations, which made the shoot take much longer. It was a bit of a headache, a huge headache for Ruby to try and organize the schedule for this. And and they weren't easy locations to shoot in either. Some of them were swimming pools, some of them were at schools, some of them were at our friend's flat. They were kind of just letting us use it as a favor, and then we kind of used it too much. So that was, I think, a big learning curve for Chai-Ling and I when we move forward with our writing, either in season 2 or with other works, is just to really think about key locations and consider the actual shooting schedule. But because of this, it meant we went overtime a lot, and we had to do more pickups than we thought we had needed to initially. And I don't know, maybe Ruby, you can talk about the pool debacle if you want.
Oh God, I don't want to revisit the pool debacle. I mean, pools bring about so many interesting challenges. You know, the pool that we went to was a heated pool, and with camera gear, when there are drastic changes in climate, it really affects lenses. So, we had to do this sort of soft start, bringing the gear into the pool, get it all acclimatized and warmed up, then set it up. Then I would have to sit there, watch, just basically chewing my entire hands off as the camera crew just carrying this like $300,000 camera into the pool. Into the span pool where Cole and Charlene are flapping about in the water. Oh. But we did it. And
twice.
Twice. Oh my gosh, yeah. There, let's just say there were some amazing teachable moments for all of us during this shoot, one of which, don't lose a whole day's worth of footage, especially from your most difficult location that you have to go back to. So to any first-time producers out there, call me if you need some advice.
Thank you for sharing that story about the pool, whether you wanted to or not.
It's fine. I'm over it now.
You've moved on.
Thank God for insurance. Yeah.
Cole, one thing I was thinking of was that in terms of, and I'm trying not to give away too much for people that haven't watched the show yet, but the last episode is a cliffhanger. I'm kind of wondering, kind of the whole thing again, was there like an alternative way you wanted to end the series, or was that like always you and Chai-Ling were like, this is going to work and this is what we want? Or were you kind of battling with one or two endings?
Yeah, I think earlier on we had to decide whether we wanted to leave it as a cliffhanger or we wanted to wrap up the series. There was a version of it where Jamie Lee leaves the country. That's like the last scene was her leaving at the airport to run away from it all and try and find a significant person in her life. But we steered away from that because that would have added another location. But yeah, we definitely wanted to leave it on that cliffhanger, but it was a bit umming and ahhing as to which character would leave it there. And we just had to really go through it and decide who had the most cause or reason, or the circumstances had gone a certain way for them to want to do that. So yeah, that's kind of what we ended up doing. It's quite funny, the feedback that I've been getting about from New Zealanders at least, about the Jamie Lee character that I play when she's in my body. They're like, she's a bit of a bitch. Like, oh, I never actually intended her to be that, like that. But if that's how she comes across, I don't mind. That's fine. It's good. It makes she's got a way to go then.
That's interesting, because I think, I'm only speaking for myself personally, that with the characters, I found her more like a lot of people that I know. And I don't view them bitchy at all. I view them as kind of driven, doing what they want. They kind of live for today.
Yeah.
Wow.
And kind of at least have a little bit more fun. Maybe there's obviously some things underneath her, and her issues with mom, dad, that kind of stuff comes into the storyline. But I didn't find her bitchy. But it's fine if somebody else did. So be it.
Yeah. I think that's more of I think it's more of a New Zealand mentality, whereas where you might look at it as living for today and being spontaneous, New Zealanders might look at it as being selfish, whereas which is an interesting take, because both are kind of true. She does want to live for today, live in the moment, be who she is unapologetically, but if that's hurting the people close to her, then maybe that's the journey that she needs to take.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, there's cultural differences here, because I really like the story because I find Jamie Lee and Curtis quite annoying. I love how flawed they are. I'm sick of seeing, these really amazing lead characters in all these TV shows, but I enjoy sort of watching them and being like, oh man, I see why you're making these decisions. I get it, but God, just learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? You actually touch on something interesting, Ruby, because that might be partially why I thought the characters were like people that I know, because I think I've had times where I was doing things that I probably shouldn't have been doing. And I knew better, but I still did them anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of maybe like I identified with the flaws in both characters. So maybe that's more like I guess I have things to work on than myself.
But that's what we love about these characters of Jamie Lee and Curtis, is that they are flawed, but they are our protagonists. They're our the people that we strive for and root for in the show, and we want them to get better. And they're providing kind of teaching moments for themselves and other people who are in these situations. They're not these beacons of wokeness of like what you should do. They're a bit trashy. They've got things to learn, and I think that's quite a nice and fair representation and different representation of queer people in New Zealand, at least. And people of color and people of different backgrounds who are going through certain things as well. It doesn't always have to be. You don't always have to be the shining light for people.
Yeah, and also just because you're a minority doesn't mean you're exempt from being awful, or just as racist, or just as homophobic and bigoted as the man or the other people that we as minorities work against. We're all complicit. We're all jerks, essentially.
One thing I wanted to ask Cole, we've got about 4 minutes or so here, that it was interesting. It must have been interesting as an actor to play a character within a character, basically. Because even for me as the viewer, sometimes as I kept watching it, I was kind of like, why did that happen? It's like, oh, wait a minute, this is Jamie Lee inside of Curtis's body, or vice versa. And then when they're especially when they're interacting with other people in their lives, then it became like that's why they had to act, like somebody, well, basically somebody else who's also somebody else. And so, what were the challenges as an actor to bring both roles basically to life?
Yeah, well, I think it took us a little while to decide how we were going to approach that when preparing for the characters. We decided that it was actually going to be easier if Cole, came up with the character and characterization of Jamie Lee, considering I was going to be playing her for the majority of the shoot, and vice versa for Chai Ling and Curtis. And so we just kind of had to bounce ideas off each other of like, oh, how would you do this as a man, and how would you do this as a woman, and that sort of thing. But it all just it just meant that we just had to explore and kind of give up on any sort of insecurities that we may have had about that sort of thing, and just be free. And then it eventually just became natural, but it took a little while for us to get into the swing of things. After the first sort of week of shooting, I think, then we're like, okay, this is what we're doing. But like I said, when we decided to make something, we wanted to do something that would challenge us and push us as actors and writers, and push the boundaries of what you would normally see on New Zealand network television as well. And I think we achieved that, but it did mean we had to kind of just go, okay, if this is our baby, we've got to suck it up and do it. And I'm proud of us and glad that we did.
Awesome. And I want to make sure that we have time here. We have the international trailer that I want to show, so people out there get a chance to see what we've been talking about for the last 28 minutes. So if the fine folks down in LA could roll the trailer, that would be awesome right now. And then we'll come right back to say goodbye.
What's a horoscope?
Yes, birthday ones are always more powerful.
What are you guys?
Gemini.
Like an eclipse hides the moon, your truth is in shadow. Those closest to you aren't all they seem. Look inward. Honesty will set you free as the full moon rises.
Wow. This has been the best birthday ever.
Who wouldn't want to be you?
I feel the same way about you.
Get out of me! That's what it is!
Get me out of you!
I think I'm in my friend's body. Am I stoned?
Yeah. Ooh, hot girl.
I think of a few things I want to try in this old meat sack.
That's got milk in it.
Thanks, babe.
Enjoy shitting yourself.
I backed my ass up against it.
Oh.
Climb that mountain.
Oh, and I need to see you in my office when you're done.
Did you pierce my ears? It's everywhere. Affordable exorcisms for 2, Auckland area.
$800?
800? Maybe has a poo. Ooh, punani. Thanks, just do your job for once and leave me alone.
People like us, am I right? At least she doesn't know any better. What's your excuse?
It's fun.
Body swap for Lomond. Body swap stuff.
It's exciting. Can you stop touching my penis, please? It's diverse. I don't care.
No!
I like it. Oh, Jamie Lee, what the fuck is wrong with you?
So you can watch it after the Alice live stream tonight and have extend your evening with a really, really wonderful show. Ruby and Cole, I want to thank you so much for taking the time today. It was a pleasure talking and getting to know both of you. And keep doing what you're doing down in New Zealand. Hopefully here in the U.S. we'll be able to get to start doing what we need to do. But we'll just be watching for what you guys put out down there. And stay safe. And thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much. This has been
Thank
fun.
you, Mark. Yeah, it's been absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night or a good day.
Yeah, we will. I gotta go to work now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you, Mark. Bye.
Bye-bye.